It would have really helped if I'd started that with the microphone on, wouldn't it? I wasn't aware of that. Right, so I'll start again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is our weekly chat about this week's topic, which is awareness. I set it as awareness, things to be aware of in your life. How we do awareness, why do we do awareness? It's become a big thing recently, obviously with all the stuff about mindfulness, which to my mind is kind of micro awareness of how I feel right now and how I'm doing right now, right up to the kind of macro stuff as I think about, which is kind of like, how's life going? You know, how's my life and my relationships going in the larger scale of things? So I'll talk a wee bit about that today. If you have any questions, please do pop them in. There's a live chat thing open there. I don't see anybody online just now with us, but hopefully, some people will join in or watch later on, so on the replay. So what's this awareness thing? Well, as I mentioned already, we've got what I think of as the micro idea of awareness, which is awareness of yourself in the moment, as I think of it, which is the whole thing about mindfulness, which is a huge topic and not one that I'm qualified to talk about in any way, although I do practice it myself. I meditate daily and I try to be mindful of my reactions to things, etc. So in that respect, I'm looking at how am I feeling about what's happening to me? Am I excited? Am I stressed? Am I worried? What's going through my mind there? I've got that awareness of that. What's the point in doing all of this? Well, to me, it's about maintaining that emotional balance and your emotional intelligence in terms of, knowing what's going on with you and being able to recognize it. So, as a youngster, I had a real problem with anger issues and I had to deal with that. And I still need to be aware of it. So I need to watch what I'm doing, especially when the kids are winding me up and stuff, and I need to be aware of how I react in those situations. So there I'm looking for what's triggering me, right? And it's maybe the noise or the whining or whatever, but it's my reaction to that makes all the difference. So I've got to be aware of what's triggering me and what my thought process and my behaviours are that are there, and so that I can then change them if I want to. So awareness helps in that respect. So, I think of it, in terms of the mindfulness stuff, in terms of my kind of micro stuff, what's happening to me just now, what's happening to me around me, present moment, obviously. Not going back to the past, not going into the future, but looking at what's happening right now. And mindfulness practice and meditation is probably the best thing for that. I do have a couple of references for you for this stuff. As I said, I'm not a mindfulness teacher, not the least, so I do practice it. There's a fantastic book I did learn from, though, that comes with a CD, or it will probably be a download now, actually. And it's called by a chap called Professor Mark Williams, and it's called Mindfulness, A Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World. Now, don't worry, it's a big mouthful. I'll put the link in the comments as soon as I can, or right at the end of this. I don't want to be typing in the middle of it, so I'll do it at the end. So it's Mindfulness, A Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World by Professor Mark Williams. And it's a lovely practical step-by-step thing, which is what I like. I like to understand what's going on, but then I like to have practical steps to do it as well. And that's a fantastic book. It's really a workbook with some of the theory in it behind it as to what's going on. And of course, you can go and look up other stuff online. If you're lucky enough to be here in Glasgow or Scotland, again, I recommend you look up Susan Granfield at SC Development Solutions, or Kay Young for practical exercises and things you can do. Two people I know who know what they're talking about. All right. So, how else can we practice awareness? And this is something that came quite close to me, actually, because as some of you know, I got myself into a bit of a pickle about 11 years ago, just before I went self-employed, where I was stressed to the max and I had basically a mental breakdown. And I actually wasn't aware of how bad things were. You know that old adage about, put a frog in some water and warm it up and it'll just stay there until it dies? Well, it's been proven to be false. But actually, you know, if you put the frog into the boiling water, it would jump straight out. Well, actually, that's actually true for we humans. And I was almost a case in point, because I was chasing the dollar, chasing the buck, and going hell for leather in my career, ignoring my personal values in search of the money, and it all came to a horrible end. And basically, that boiling water got hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and it was eventually my doctor had to say to me, look, geez, enough. You have to stop here. You have to resign. You have to stop doing what you're doing, because it's killing you. You know, I hadn't been sleeping. I had stress-related illness. I was having, you know, heart palpitation. I was having all kinds of stuff that you really should have seen it. You know, I should have. But I wasn't aware. I just thought this was part of modern living, you know, and chasing and going up the career ladder, that this is what you did. And obviously, for me, it wasn't what was right for me. In some instances, it's great for some people because they're built like that, and that's what they want, is that constant drive and, you know, and doing things like that. But I was actually going to get my values, which is a different kind of stress. We've talked about it another time. So how can we keep an eye on this stuff? You know, we do the mindfulness for the macro stuff. So how do we keep an eye on, if you like, the more kind of macro stuff in terms of, you know, am I sitting there in the water that's coming to the boil? You know, and I think the best way to do that, and it's a way I go on about a lot, and I make no apology for it, is journaling. Just journal what's happening to you on a daily basis. So, you know, get yourself a journal and start writing down what's been happening to you and what's made you feel bleh, you know, and also diarise things like your sleep, you know, for awareness on this stuff, for stresses. How much am I sleeping or not, as the case may be? That was the big problem for me. And I was aware I wasn't sleeping as much as I should. In fact, I had insomnia for years and was getting pills for it. But I just thought, again, that this was part of the game we played in modern life, which wasn't really clever. So I think journaling's a great way to do this, and you don't need to make it complicated. In fact, I've got a free course on how to do this stuff. I'm going to share it in the comments for you in a second about how to do this. In fact, I'll do it right now, and I'll also put it in the comments below this. If I can do this, hopefully I'm clever enough. There we go. So that's it there. Now that's a free course I've written on how to use a one-page journaling template that I put together. It's in my Brian's Life Shapers thing on Thinkific there, and you can sign up for free for that and do it. And what you can do there is start to look at, you know, what's going on in your life, and if you want to keep a score, as I've recommended in that, you can go through it. You'll see it all. And there's various sections to this one-page template to get you started if you're not used to journaling. It's really about where, you know, am I getting what I want out of life? Am I getting fun, satisfaction, fulfillment? You know, all the needs that we need are over and above the basic things like food, shelter, etc., safety. Going back to the old Maslow's hierarchy there. So am I getting these things that I want to do? So have a look at that course and the one-page journaling template for you there. Very simple stuff. I've taken it from some things that I did with CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, and for when I was depressed. And also, it's actually a very good thing just to do, just to keep an eye on yourself. All right. So go and have a look at that and start to look at what's going on daily with you in that respect, because you can start to look at, okay, am I getting enough sleep? You know, what's been annoying me? What's the triggers that are annoying me? Or what's happening that's making me stay awake at night? And looking at these things, and it's the awareness of what's causing the behaviour with you further down the line that will help you fix it. You know, you can't diagnose, you can't fix a problem. A doctor can't fix a problem until they diagnose it, and you can't help yourself until you've really kind of diagnosed, is there something going wrong? Or alternatively, where are you doing things that actually light you up? Now, I've told this story a couple of times, but my wife talks about when I ran my marketing consultancy beside the coaching, and they overlapped quite a lot with the clients and things that I was doing. And she always knew what I was doing, because I work here at home, and she would say that when I came out of the office, she knew what I was doing, because if I came out and I was maybe a wee bit more like Eeyore out of Winnie the Pooh, I've been doing the marketing stuff, which I've been doing for 20 odd years. And if I came out like Tigger, I was doing the coaching, because it's what sets me alight. It's what makes me, it makes me happy doing this stuff, helping people to avoid the mistakes I've made, and to go on and do the things that they can do in life, that they really want to do in life. That's what lights me up. So it's looking for those things as well. It's not just looking for the negatives. It's looking for, okay, what's actually brought me great joy today? Was there something that would really, it could just be something as simple as a telephone conversation with a friend, or going for a pint with a friend, or whatever it is you do, or arranging to see a friend in a week's time. What's brought me joy? What's lit me up? And see what those things are. And obviously you want to minimise the things that are bad for you, and maximise the things that are good for you. So have a look at that one-page template in the free course that's there for you in the comments. Sign up for that and have a wee look. Now, it's a very basic beginner's idea about journaling and CBT and all that stuff for awareness. The cognitive behavioural therapy is all about being aware of what you're thinking that then leads to your behaviours. All right, it's fairly straightforward stuff, but common sense isn't always common practice. It certainly wasn't with me when I got myself all stressed and eventually had to leave employment. So have a look at that and start looking at the things that you want to, you want to track in your life. Maybe you've been feeling a bit bored recently, or a bit frustrated, and you maybe want to track, where are you feeling frustrated? I know for me, things were going when it was my kids winding me up or something, like grumpy daddy, and I had to think, right, okay, what's that trigger? It's them whining at me or fighting together, very no problem. And I would have to think about, all right, how do I react differently? What can I think differently based on that trigger? And you can't do that unless you're aware of the trigger in the first place. So back to the awareness stuff. So, and it might just other things like, oh, I had a brilliant day today, so what was I doing differently? Maybe you were at work, but you had a brilliant day, and you think, oh, what was different about that? Have a look at that, get the awareness of what you were doing. Perhaps you were maybe working with a team rather than on your own, or vice versa. And get aware of what's good for you and what you're better at and what you're good at, because you should always work to your strengths. All right? Yeah, we can mitigate our weaknesses, but work to your strengths. And once you know those through awareness, you can work on them. You can work to them. You can start to look for opportunities that suit your strengths, and once you're aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. So that's another big kind of macro way to look at it. And the other thing about awareness, I think, is maybe just doing a wee life review every now and then. All right. So I've talked about this before, and there's a unit here in, I think it's actually Unit 1 here in the group called Wheel of Life, and just have a wee look in there and score each area out of 10 for yourself. On there, I think there's 8 segments on it. You can call them whatever you like, whatever's important to you, but it's things like career, money, relationships, family, fun and recreation, that kind of thing. And just have a look to see, okay, where maybe have I got a broken spot in my wheel there? Where is that not going as well as I'd like? Was it going great last year? Maybe it's dipped down a bit. And that sometimes happens a lot, when people do what I was doing, which was, chasing the career and chasing the dreams sometimes, and there's these unintended consequences of you maybe not seeing your family or your wife's partner, spouse, friends even, as often as you'd like, and the effect that can have on your mental health and your physical well-being and all the rest of it. So how we think about that as well, looking at, in the macro sense, use the Wheel of Life to look at maybe even twice a year. It doesn't have to be every month. You can just relook and say, okay, scoring that, looks like, my fun and recreation's a wee bit down, or it's stayed down for a while. If you keep a track of these things and just print them out and stick them in a binder somewhere. And you can have a wee look and think, how that's gone down a wee bit. Maybe that's not so great. Now, there are apps that you can track this stuff on. I've tried some of them. Personal choice, I don't like them because I think you should write it down and you take ownership and you remember it better. You write them down. I'm old-fashioned that way. Apps might be the thing for you. If you find a great one, please let us know. All right, but it's just not something that I use. I prefer to write it down. So that wheel of life is your kind of top level macro thing, looking at, okay, where's my life going? How's it feeling? That's your top awareness stuff. And then you can start to look at, your journaling, and maybe even a monthly review if you look at what's going on with you. Certainly a lot of people who are self-employed have to do this because they have to look at what they're doing coming up. But it's a great thing to do even if you're employed, to think, okay, what have I got coming up? What projects have I got coming up? What do I need to do? What do I need to make sure I've got enough resources, time, energy for as well in doing this stuff? So have a look at your journaling for that, and you can do the template journaling, or you can do freeform and just read over it. I like the template that I've created for you there, because as I said, I've used some bits of CBT, and some other stuff in there that just helps me to track where I'm going. So if I give myself a score for satisfaction, fun, and recreation, and things like that, or fulfillment every day. I think there's examples on the thing, but you can change it. I can see then, is it going up and down? Is it staying constant? Have I got it up to the level I want it to be at? If I'm scoring that out of 10 or whatever, is it where I want it to be? Is it as high as it's likely to get to? Or am I going through a wee dip? And certainly for somebody like me who's had depression in the past, it's good to see where the wee dips come, especially when it's like social isolation and fun, because that's when well, it's one of the things for me that things, the black dog might be coming to visit again. I tend to do the things that lift me up again. So it's great for that stuff. It's great for mental health. It's great for performance, even if you want to be a better performer at work, maybe in your social things, if you play an instrument or you've got a hobby or whatever it is. It's great for that, to be able to say, am I making time for it? Am I doing this, or is that time getting squeezed out? So if you look at your, and track your hobbies and like social activity thing, is that getting squeezed out over a long period of time? There's another awareness trigger for me that would say, wait a minute here, this might be a sign of a long-term problem, or me moving into a long-term problem. Time to do something about it, and have a wee review, talk to a good coach, talk to a good friend or whatever, and just think about how you can change things to get back on track. So the whole point of awareness for me is for us to look at where things are going right for us and where things are going wrong for us, and to keep on top of that. So we can do that, and as I said, on a micro basis, on a daily thing, looking at your reactions to stuff, looking at your emotional states, your emotional intelligence, looking for stress triggers on a daily basis, or the kids driving me mad and be blowing my top, which is no good for anybody. So we need to change that. And then start to look at, more kind of long-term things. And your journaling is for your daily stuff and your trends and all that kind of stuff. And you can maybe even do a monthly review at the end of that, which I think is a really good thing to do, actually. Just a wee monthly review, have a wee look back over it. Anything I need to change, anything I need to do. And that's just it's almost a kind of personal life performance. It's not about performance at work, it's about, are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying life? Are you getting the most out of it? And have a wee look at that. And maybe twice a year, look at your wheel of life. Look at the wheel of life that's in, I think it's Unit 1 in the units here, but it's certainly in the units here. You can go in there and have a look at that, download the template and the instructions, and I'll tell you how to do it. And have a look at, okay, where's things going? Am I aware of where my life is going? Am I happy with where it's going? And is there anything I need to change? So that's really the whole thing, folks. I'm going to try and wrap this up because I want to keep these about 19-20 minutes if there's nobody on live asking questions. And that is the awareness of what's going on with you, and all the meditation, mindfulness stuff, right up to what I've talked about in the macro stuff, is all about looking at where is it going right, where am I on the right path, and where am I going off it. All right. And if you feel that that's at that point, you can then interrupt that pattern and change that behavior. And of course, if you need any help with that, talk to a coach, preferably me, obviously. And I'll put the link to book a free call with me below here as well in the comments. So have a look at the micro right up to the macro. Keep that awareness thing in mind, and that way you have that formula then for being able to interrupt change patterns, change the states, change the patterns of behaviour, and get to somewhere better. I hope that's helped you today. This very quick rundown on awareness. As I said, there's lots and lots of stuff out there on the internet, books you can read on it. I'm going to put one up here for you. Again, I'll just remind you of the title of that. It's Mindfulness, A Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World. Great book by Professor Mark Williams. If you're in Glasgow, look out for Susan Granfield and Kay Young's events to learn about mindfulness. Look at the journaling thing that I've got up here in the comments for you. It's a free course. Go and do it. It's very short. But it'll get you started on this stuff. And if you really need help, then book a call with me, a free call with me, and we'll see if I'm the person to help you move forward. So I hope that's helped. If you liked it, please tell me. If you did, and tell others. If you didn't like it, tell me, and tell me what you'd like different, and maybe other topics you'd like covered in these weekly chats as we go through. And we'll see what we can do about that, and maybe getting some guest people on to talk to us as well. That's it for now. I hope you have a fantastic day, week, and life, and I'll speak to you soon, hopefully. Bye for now.